Chapter 2 is Video Games Moved to the Masses, 1978 to 1979. The late 1970s marked the start of the golden age of arcade machines, during which some of the most prolific and engaging games were created. As more powerful electronics and color graphics became possible, the mass market started to take notice. Everyone wanted to try this new form of entertainment. Arcade games started popping up all over the world. The first video arcades opened, providing dedicated venues to play coin-operated video games and socialize with friends. Atari Football. Released in 1978 by Atari, football is considered the first game to accurately emulate a sport in an arcade video game. Player characters were represented in black and white graphics as X's and O's. Players selected either offensive or defensive plays and then controlled one of the characters on each team by furiously rolling a trackball. It was physically exhausting to play, as players needed to spin the trackball as fast as possible before each play to win the game. Football was the first video game to feature a scrolling screen to show the entire football field, and it was one of Atari's first games with a trackball. Atari Football was released in 2-player and 4-player configurations. Considered a success for the first time, Atari produced nearly 15,000 units, and the game spawned a series of sports games by Atari, including baseball and basketball games. Lunar Lander. In 1979, Atari introduced Lunar Lander. Considered the first arcade simulation game, it realistically depicted the landing of a spacecraft on the moon. It used actual Newtonian physics to put the player in control of the thrusters to land the spacecraft. Players used buttons to rotate left and right and a large mechanical thruster to control the speed and trajectory of the spacecraft while trying to conserve fuel. The physics engine made the game engaging and created a unique challenge, but it was too difficult for many players and was not big success, selling only 4,830 units. Lunar Lander was inspired by the game Moonlander, written by Jack Burness in 1973 as a demo for a 1960s DEC PDP-11 mini-computer to show off the vector graphics display. The control panel on Lunar Lander contained a custom-designed thruster controller for a realistic feel. Though its sales were far from stellar, Lunar Lander made a mark on the industry by introducing a couple of unique features. One was the ability for the player to change the level of difficulty at any time during gameplay. Another feature allowed the player to add coins at any time during play to add more fuel, allowing the existing game to continue. This was Atari's first game to use a vector display, which led to the creation of the highly successful Asteroids game series. Space Invaders. Released in 1979 by Taito and distributed in America by Midway, Space Invaders was the first blockbuster arcade video game hit, selling more than 160,000 units worldwide. It was created by Japanese developer Tomohiro Nishikado. With a joystick, the player controlled a laser cannon that moved horizontally at the bottom of the screen. A button allowed the cannon to shoot a laser bullet upward to hit and destroy multiple rows of aliens. The aliens marched back and forth across the screen, slowly advancing from the top to the bottom. The goal was to eliminate all the aliens before getting shot 3 times or letting the aliens reach the bottom of the screen. An ever-increasing sound effect played an important part by creating tension as the aliens moved faster and faster toward the player's laser cannon. Space Invaders contributed many firsts to the industry, including the use of animated characters and an ability to display a high score. Its impact was further felt by the sheer quantity of spin-offs, clones, and remakes made to this day on every game platform imaginable. Space Invaders also had a big effect on pop culture. It is referenced in multiple television shows and merchandise, and is still touted in many video game and cultural exhibitions. Popularity of Space Invaders in Japan created a shortage of the 100 yen coin. Asteroids. In 1979, Atari showed Taito that it wasn't the only company that could create a great shooting game. Asteroids was Atari's second vector display game, and it proved to be a big hit, selling more than 70,000 units and producing 3 sequels. Designed by Ed Logg, the object of the game was to use buttons to control the rotation, thrust, and firing ability of the spacecraft to shoot and destroy asteroids and saucers. The player needed to avoid colliding with anything or getting hit by the saucer's counterfire. Asteroids quickly became part of America's pop culture and soon spawned endless ports and clones. The game features a unique wraparound 360-degree playing field. It also enhanced the high score function of Space Invaders by being the first game to enable players to enter their initials along with a qualifying high score. That was very influential. Galaxian. In 1979, Namco put a spin on the Space Invaders formula and introduced enemy attack formation to the arcades with Galaxian, which was distributed in the United States by Midway. Players again used a joystick and fire button to control a laser cannon that moved horizontally at the bottom of the screen. But this time, instead of just marching side to side, the aliens had attack patterns that would allow them to swoop down from above and attack the player in an unpredictable fashion. If the player's ship was hit 3 times by alien fire, the game was over. Bonus ships could be earned at set scoring intervals. The game features a mesmerizing scrolling and twinkling star field background. Galaxian was the first game with true multicolor graphics, and it set a new standard for the look of games in the coming years. Its success also spawned 7 sequels such as Galaga and G+. By the end of the 1970s, new games were breaking records and breaking the rules with unique features and designs. The next decade would push the industry from fad to phenomenon. In Galaxian, the player ship is called the Galaxy. This enemy flagship was featured in many future Namco games, including the Ice Cream Sundae bonus item and Pac-Man. Tempest designer David Thayer said the game's design came from a dream he had in which monsters crawl out of a hole in the ground. Very interesting.